Greetings, all! Today, we will be examining the common normal-type Pokemon Bidoof, the Plump Mouse Pokémon, and its relatively common normal water evolution Bibarel, the Beaver Pokémon. Though they might not be among the most dangerous of creatures out there, the members of the Bidoof family are cute rodents that can certainly make for interesting combatants when push comes to shove in a battle. Bidoof have small plump bodies with brown hair and 4 small legs capped with 3-toed webbed feet that they use to swim in the water. Their backside has a short bubbly tail, and the body is adorned with a patch of light brown hair that covers their chest, forehead, and beady black eyes, as well as small round ears, a black snout with a small pink nose, and a massive, protruding set of front incisors that give them a surprisingly nasty bite. Their evolved form, Bibarel, have a similar color scheme to their forms, though their bodies are a lighter shade of brown everywhere, with a larger crest of light-colored fur on their larger eyes and forehead. Their most distinguishing feature is their tail, which has developed into a large dark brown paddle shape with a single squiggly band of light-colored material near its end, as well as enlarged back feet with a small splotch of light color on their underside. The members of the Bidoof family are rodents that very much act in a similar way as to their beaver relatives, both behaviorally and biologically, even if they do not acquire all the noted biological characteristics that define them as beavers until they manage to reach adulthood, resembling mice instead when existing as Bidoof. These creatures are more resilient to attack than similar contemporaries as a result of having a stockier build and more stamina than Pokemon like Rattata, and they are able to make good use of their sturdier forms to deliver powerful attacks like Rollout and even Superpower at higher levels of experience, though the biology is still dominated by their exceptionally large front incisors. These teeth grow at the same rate as Rattata's when as Bidoof and about the same as Bibarel, so they must constantly gnaw on and whittle down their teeth as they continuously grow in order to keep them at a safe size for both the sake of their health and those around them. As such, it is common to see these creatures gnawing on boulders and logs when they can to file down their teeth, and while this can allow them to learn attacks like Hyper Fang and Super Fang, their incisors tend to not be quite as sharp as that of Rattata, so their power is a bit less so. Thankfully, this rarely proves to be much of a problem for them, as these rodents evolve fairly quickly and can in turn be made use of in an evolved state fairly early on in their lifetimes. These creatures tend to not always demonstrate the greatest of intelligence in many cases, or at the very least, are not affected by moves that try to change their stats in the same way as others are affected, so they can possess simple or unaware as base abilities, while those that tend to turn this on its head and instead prove to be unpredictable and hard to manage can have Moody as a hidden ability. As far as the stats go, and looking at Bibarel, while these creatures are decently sturdy to some degree, they really don't have what it takes to make themselves a serious threat, as all their base stats are below average for fully evolved normal and water-type Pokemon. As such, while they might be easy to find and obtain, they lack the serious power needed to be a severe threat, and thus are best suited for friendly battles at best, where their unimpressive power is not so much of a big deal. Bidoof tend to act like they are not very active and easy prey for many, but in truth, they are actually much more active than they appear and merely loll about in order to preserve energy, nesting along bodies of water in order to be near adults of their family in case they need protection against something they cannot readily handle. These creatures tend to develop fairly quickly and are able to make it to adulthood fairly easily, but they can still find themselves to be easy prey to larger bird Pokemon that are not so easily thrown off by the possession of moves like Rollout to defend themselves against flying predators. Despite them not being very powerful, Bidoof are noteworthy when pressed into any sort of conflict because, while they seem to be outwardly very dull-witted and unintelligent, something that is duly reflected in their abilities, in truth, it is actually quite the opposite. They are generally quite intelligent for a rodent and are able to problem solve quite effectively when needed to give others the slip or otherwise escape a harrowing situation. These little rodents have nerves of steel and are not easily perturbed by anything, no matter how much danger they might be in, and are able to use this to stare down others, or at the very least, stare at them long enough to creep out their target and make them less likely to directly attack them. This can make these otherwise weak creatures somewhat of a scare for beginning trainers, as they will never back down in fear against an opponent, and thus can be a bit unnerving to some. Thankfully, these creatures are not aggressive in the slightest, and can instead make great pets for young children and trainers alike, and prove to be quite a bit more versatile than their dopey appearance might otherwise suggest. When Bidoof evolve into Bibarel, they acquire a physical form that is much more in line with the beavers that they are related to, and as a consequence, end up spending much of their time in the water, to the point where they actually become partial water types. This is also signified in the acquisition of the Water Gun attack immediately after evolving, and is further supplemented through the Rototiller and Aqua Jet moves they can learn with a bit of artificial help. While they might seem to move cumbersomely on land, These creatures are gifted swimmers and are able to use their larger feet to swim through water just as fast as Phoebus, and thus have little trouble dealing with strong currents. These rodents spend most of their time making their nests in streams and rivers in the form of dams, built out of mud and the remains of chewed bark, branches, and roots stuck together in a patchwork framework, the mud working as the glue that keeps the individual pieces of wood comprising the dams stuck together. The dams formed by Bibarel are extremely sturdy and almost never break unless the water flow is extremely powerful, and are useful for not only stopping the flow of water, but more importantly controlling it, as the efforts of these beasts can help change entire waterways and establish new life in areas where flowing water might otherwise be inaccessible or difficult to come by. This is something that has been taken advantage of by humans in particular for a long time, as the fact that the walls of their dams almost never fail make them reliable, and people have often set up towns near these diverted waterways in order to make the most of the consistent and steady water flow present. Bibarel do not seem to mind this and are intelligent enough to be able to tell friend from foe even amongst humans, making them fairly easy to work with as friends and fighters and worth interacting with, if only because their friendly demeanor means that they are easy to approach without fear of getting bitten. They may not be the most dangerous of beasts to confront, but the members of the Bidoof family are still lovable creatures that can be a lot of fun to be around and just have a good time with. Their lack of power only belittles the surprising versatility of their moves and definitely paints them in a dimmer light than it should, as they can still put up quite the fight and make themselves a target worth noting in and out of battle. If you're out on a walk and you happen to see some of these creatures, don't be afraid to just give them a wave and say hello. Just try not to get in between them and their damn materials, or you might come to find out that they can do a little bit more than get you wet when their front teeth are bared. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always an honor to be able to speak with you all on the subject of Pokemon in a way that brings me great joy and happiness in my work. If you would like to keep tabs on past and future work, click that subscribe button, check out my work on DeviantArt, and don't be shy about following me on Twitter, where you can find pertinent announcements on upcoming work before it is officially posted. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you would like to support my work and help Miguel and I continue to produce more content for you and improve upon our presentation, please visit us at my Patreon page, which you can also find a link to in the video description. With that, I thank you for watching and I wish you well.